Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The Supreme Court has once again thrust itself into the center of America's most heated debate, the intersection of gun rights and drug use. This is not just a legal battle, but a cultural and political one, with deep roots in the nation's history and identity. The court's involvement signals just how high the stakes have become and how divided the country remains on these fundamental issues. On October 20, 2025, the court upheld a federal law barring users of controlled substances from owning firearms, reigniting fierce arguments nationwide. The decision sent shockwaves through communities, advocacy groups, and lawmakers, as both sides scrambled to interpret what this means for the future of personal freedoms and public safety. This 6-3 decision draws a new boundary for the Second Amendment, forcing millions to reconsider where personal rights end and government regulation begins. For many, it's a moment of reckoning, challenging long-held beliefs about the Constitution and the rights it guarantees. The ruling has sparked passionate debates in homes, online forums, and legislative halls across the country. The case, U.S. v. Daniels, is now a flashpoint in a national conversation about liberty, safety, and the evolving meaning of law-abiding citizen. It's a case that will be studied for years, as legal scholars and ordinary Americans alike try to understand its implications for civil rights and government authority. With marijuana legal in many states but banned federally, the ruling creates a legal gray area for millions who now risk becoming federal criminals overnight. This contradiction between state and federal law leaves many confused and anxious, unsure of how to navigate their rights and responsibilities in a rapidly changing legal landscape. The decision's impact is immediate and personal, affecting everyone from suburban families to city dwellers. Whether you're a gun owner, a medical marijuana patient, or simply someone concerned about the balance between crime and safety, this ruling touches your life in unexpected ways. As the dust settles, Americans are left to grapple with the ruling's complex legal reasoning and its real-world consequences. Questions linger about enforcement, fairness, and the future of both gun rights and drug policy. Communities are coming together to discuss, debate, and demand clarity from their leaders. Understanding this decision is crucial. It speaks directly to the nation's character and the ongoing struggle to define responsible citizenship in modern America. As the conversation continues, one thing is clear: the ruling has become a defining moment, challenging every American to reflect on what it truly means to be both free and responsible in a changing world. The story began with Patrick Daniels, a Mississippi man and regular marijuana user. Daniels lived a quiet life, working hard and keeping to himself, but he also used marijuana, a choice that, while legal in many states, remains controversial and illegal under federal law. For Daniels, marijuana was a part of his daily routine, not a sign of criminal intent or violence. In 2022, Daniels was pulled over by police during a routine traffic stop. Officers discovered marijuana and 2 legally owned firearms in his vehicle. Despite having no history of violence or criminal activity, Daniels was charged under a federal law that makes it a felony for anyone who uses illegal drugs to possess firearms. This law, known as 18 U.S.C. ECZ per Car 922 G 3, has been the subject of growing debate as more states move to legalize marijuana. Daniels argued that his Second Amendment rights were being violated. He pointed out that his marijuana use, which is now legal or decriminalized in many states, did not make him dangerous or unfit to own a gun. His case raised a fundamental question: should federal law treat all marijuana users as criminals, even when their actions are legal under state law? The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with Daniels, ruling that the federal law was unconstitutional as applied to him. This decision created a split among federal courts, as other circuits had upheld the law in similar cases, leading to confusion and uncertainty across the country. This inconsistency, where a marijuana user could own a gun in one state but not another, prompted the Supreme Court to step in. The patchwork of state and federal laws left millions of Americans unsure of their rights, especially as public attitudes toward marijuana continued to evolve. The justices took up U.S. v. Daniels to answer a critical question: can the government disarm someone solely for using a drug that is legal under state law? The case would force the court to weigh individual rights against federal authority in a rapidly changing legal landscape. Daniels was otherwise law-abiding with no violent or criminal history. He represented countless Americans who follow the law in every other respect, yet find themselves caught between conflicting state and federal rules. His case forced the court to confront whether federal law can override state legalization and individual rights. The outcome would not only affect Daniels but also set a precedent for how the Constitution is interpreted in the context of modern drug policy. The simplicity of his situation, an otherwise peaceful citizen caught in a legal gray area, made it the perfect test for a much larger constitutional question. Daniels' case became a symbol for the broader debate over gun rights, drug laws, and the limits of federal power. The outcome would set a precedent for millions of Americans navigating the intersection of state and federal law, shaping the future of both gun ownership and marijuana legalization in the United States. To understand Daniels, we must revisit the 2022 Bruen decision, which changed how courts judge gun laws. Bruen replaced decades of balancing tests with a new rule. Gun regulations must align with the nation's historical firearm traditions. This history and tradition test unleashed thousands of legal challenges as courts struggled to find 18th or 19th century analogs for modern laws. Daniels became the first major test of this framework at the Supreme Court. The government argued that history supports disarming those deemed irresponsible, like the intoxicated or mentally ill. Daniels' side countered, history only punished carrying guns while intoxicated, not permanent disarmament for substance use. The court's decision would clarify how strictly Bruen's historical test applies, and shape Second Amendment law for years to come. On October 20, 2025, the Supreme Court upheld the federal gun ban for drug users in a 6-3 vote. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote that the Second Amendment protects law-abiding, responsible citizens, not everyone. The majority found that history supports disarming those considered untrustworthy or dangerous, even if drug users weren't specifically mentioned in old laws. By using federally illegal substances, the court reasoned, individuals show disregard for the law, justifying temporary disarmament. The ruling didn't require a direct historical twin, just a similar principle of public safety. This approach gives the government leeway to defend other gun laws rooted in responsibility, not just historical specifics. The decision marks a pragmatic turn for the court's conservative majority, signaling that the Second Amendment is not absolute. For many, it's a reaffirmation of the government's role in promoting public safety amid expanding gun rights. Justice Clarence Thomas, joined by Justices Alito and Gorsuch, issued a sharp dissent. He argued the majority diluted Bruen's strict historical test, allowing modern bans with no true historical precedent. Thomas pointed out that old laws punished using guns while intoxicated, not gun ownership by substance users. He warned the ruling criminalizes millions of otherwise law-abiding citizens, especially as marijuana is legal in many states. Thomas criticized the law-abiding citizen standard as circular. The government can't strip rights simply by making behavior illegal. For the dissenters, the Second Amendment is a core liberty that shouldn't be set aside for unpopular behavior. Their dissent signals the debate over gun rights, and the meaning of Bruen is far from over. The Daniels decision sparked immediate, polarized reactions. Gun control groups like Brady United praised it as a victory for public safety, arguing it keeps guns from those whose judgment may be impaired. They see the ruling as a pragmatic check on expanding gun rights, and a legal foundation for defending other regulations. Gun rights advocates, including the NRA, condemned the decision as a dangerous precedent, stripping rights based on lifestyle, not violence. They echoed Justice Thomas's concerns, warning the law-abiding standard is vague and could be used to disarm more groups. For them, the ruling is a retreat from Bruen and a step toward creating second-class citizens. The decision deepens the divide, with both sides seeing their core principles at stake. The Daniels ruling hits hardest for millions of Americans who use cannabis, now legal in most states. For these individuals, the landscape of rights and restrictions has become even more confusing and fraught with risk. Despite state-level legalization, cannabis remains banned at the federal level, creating a patchwork of conflicting laws that can be difficult to navigate. The decision cements a paradox. Americans can follow their state's laws and still find themselves in violation of federal statutes. If you own a gun and use marijuana, even legally under state law, you risk being labeled a federal felon, with all the consequences that brings. Federal background checks for firearms explicitly ask about marijuana use. Lying on these forms is a felony offense, punishable by prison time and loss of rights. But answering honestly means you must forfeit your right to own or purchase a firearm, leaving many feeling trapped by the system. Medical marijuana patients in particular face a painful and deeply personal choice: access their prescribed medicine or give up their right to self-defense, a right many consider fundamental. The ruling especially impacts communities where both gun ownership and cannabis use are common, creating not just legal, but also ethical and cultural dilemmas for families and individuals. Economically, the decision pits the booming cannabis and firearms industries against each other, complicating business operations, consumer rights, and even employment opportunities for those involved in either sector. The decision also risks eroding trust in the legal system among those who feel punished for behavior accepted in their communities, fueling frustration and uncertainty. As the legal and social fallout continues to unfold, many Americans are left wondering how to balance their rights, responsibilities, and personal choices in this new era. Legal experts see Daniels as a turning point in the Supreme Court's approach to gun rights. After decades of avoiding the issue, the court is now actively shaping the boundaries of gun regulation. By introducing the law-abiding responsible citizen standard, the majority offers lower courts flexibility to uphold some gun laws without strict historical matches. This may be a pragmatic correction to Bruin, aiming to prevent the collapse of modern gun regulations. But the new standard is vague. Who counts as law-abiding or responsible? Legal scholars predict a new wave of litigation as courts draw these lines. The Daniels ruling settles one question, but opens many more, ensuring the judiciary remains central to the gun debate. State-level battles like Oregon's Measure 114 will be shaped by these evolving Supreme Court principles. The Supreme Court's Daniels decision hasn't ended the gun debate, it's redrawn the battlefield. By upholding the ban for drug users, the court affirms federal power but leaves a patchwork of conflicting laws. Both gun control and gun rights advocates find reasons for concern and hope, as the ruling leaves key questions unresolved. The sharp split between majority and dissent highlights deep ideological divides, both nationally and within the court. The definition of law-abiding responsible citizen will fuel future legal and political battles. Upcoming cases will further shape the Second Amendment's meaning in this new era. In this unsettled landscape, staying informed and engaged is more important than ever. The Daniels ruling is not the end, but another chapter in America's evolving relationship with the right to bear arms.